hello. All right, we got Friday in the house. I was going to be teaching on this yesterday, but time just got away and I didn't want to rush it. So what I want to teach you and take you through today is how I supported a client in a projected $68,000 revenue in one meeting. Imagine that. Imagine one meeting and being able to build out a strategy for $68,000. And that's what we did. So those of you who don't know, hello, thanks for being here. My name is Melissa. I'm a business strategist for online businesses, online coaches, and consultants. I built my own mindset business to 6 and then 7 figures and began consulting people on how to build their business. Now, I don't use paid ads. I don't do any fancy tricks. I built it with 1,000 and then 4,000 followers. You don't need a lot of this stuff out there. And what I always focus on, when I focused on with this client, I focused on 2 things. Now, those of you who don't know, I was a teacher for 10 years. I was in education before I got into online coaching. So I am a teacher at heart. You can't take me out of the classroom. This is my new classroom. Thank you for being in the classroom. I recommend taking notes on this. I highly, recommend taking notes on this. 2 things I always look for. In any meeting, I work with people in both one-on-one and group settings. And there are 2 things that I look for. What are the holes and what are the opportunities? What are the holes and what are the opportunities? So what do I mean by a hole? I mean, where are you? And I use this analogy all the time. Everyone's like, how can I pour in more? How can I pour in more? More leads, more followers, more this, more revenue. Most often, you don't need more. You are leaking out. You got holes in your cup. So you can keep pouring in all you want, but if it's just gonna leak out, it doesn't matter how much you pour in. You're gonna feel like you're constantly trying to stay afloat. Like, who here can relate to that? Feeling like you are just trying to stay afloat. So most people, most coaches even, will coach you to do more. What I focus on first and foremost is how are we closing the holes? So what are your holes? Maybe it's email open rate. Maybe it's following up with leads. Maybe it's closing rate in a sales call. Maybe it's show up rate for calls. Maybe it is having leads. Maybe it's an opt-in or a lead magnet. The second thing I always look at, and I'm gonna tell you exactly what I coached this client that yielded 68K projection. The second thing I always look at is opportunities for growth. Now, I don't look at opportunities for growth until we've closed the holes, because if you got holes and you grow, it doesn't matter. You're just gonna be leaking out. So first thing, honestly, anyone who is running any type of business, number one thing you wanna look at weekly, where are the holes? Where are things leaking out? Second thing, what are the opportunities? What is working? What are the opportunities for expansion? What am I not tapping into? What am I not doing yet? So for this particular client, who I've worked with now since November of last year, she runs multiple businesses and multi 6 figures and is crushing it. But she can grow so much more. And so we were looking at what is the current hole. So one of the things she has are opt-ins. Now, an opt-in, if you're not familiar, could be a free download, it could be a free training, it can be a worksheet, it could be a pop-up on your website. But how are people opting in to go further with you, to be on your email list, to get your content, whatever it is? Maybe it's the subscribe thing here on Instagram. I haven't done that myself yet, but that could be considered an opt-in. So she had about 16 opt-ins in a week, which is pretty good. I mean, it's all organic, nothing paid. 16 opt-ins, but there was no follow-up. So her team, her VA team, and herself, they had not reached out to connect and say, hey, thank you for opting in. What are you looking to learn more about? How can I best serve and share content that supports you? So the first thing that we did was we created a system in place. One, you can have a notification. So if anybody opts in, you can use Zapier. And Zapier can create a notification to, say, a Slack channel, so that you don't have to be tracking everything everywhere. I track everything through Slack. I connect Stripe to Slack. I connect email to Slack. I connect onboarding forms to Slack, book calls to Slack. Everything goes to Slack. So Slack is like my filing cabinet of what's happening in my business. So we created a Zapier is what you can use, so that if somebody opted in, there was a notification sent to her Slack channel. Then we created an SOP, standard operating procedure, so that whenever somebody opts in, her team can follow this SOP, or she can. If you're by yourself, you can do this yourself. And it's a connection point with any opt-in. Then we created an automation so that anyone who opts in is placed on a Monday board. I use Monday.com as like the organizational everything in my business. They go on Monday.com, what did they opt into? Then you can create notes and you can have a checkpoint. So say you send somebody a message, they opted in to your work, whatever you offer, and then you want to track them on Monday.com to follow up with them in a week or 2 weeks. So that's part of the SOP, standard operating procedure. So you follow up in a couple of weeks and it's like, hey, you opted into this, you downloaded this free worksheet or this free training or these recipes or workout or whatever it is. How's it going for you? And now you have a system in place to have touch points with people who are opting in instead of just, as I said earlier, leaking out. Okay, second thing we did was we looked at an opportunity for growth. And for her, she's done a lot with referrals, meaning that her clients are very happy and that they refer people. Now, her client recently referred somebody and she has about a $15,000 offer as one of her offers. Now, that's a lot higher than typical. Clients I typically work with have offers around anywhere from $1,500 to $5,000, I'd say is more typical. So let's use that as an example. Her clients didn't know that she has a referral program and incentive, meaning if one of her clients refers somebody to work with her and it ends up being a fit, she gives that client a payout, right? I do the same thing. I love growing by referrals. Those of you watching this, referrals is the best way to grow. Like, are you more likely to eat at a restaurant that you Google or one that somebody that you trust recommends? Probably the one somebody you trust recommends. Same thing happens in business. People are more likely to take action when someone they trust recommends working with you rather than randomly finding you or Googling or whatever it is. So we created a referral campaign to go out to her clients, letting them know not only about the referral incentive, but this is important, how to connect people, like how to connect. So literally saying to her clients, if you want to refer somebody, please do this, right? Put them on an email with me, put them on a text with me, put them on an Instagram DM, being that specific. If you want someone to take action, you got to make it simple. People are busy, right? Some of you are in or out of here, whatever it is. People are busy. The simpler you make it, the more likely they are to take action. And I can't emphasize that enough. The simpler it is, the more likely someone is to take action. How many times have you gone into, I don't know, let's use Amazon, and you go to checkout and it needs your credit card updated or it needs something updated or it logged you out and you got to sign in. And as soon as there's one more step, you're like, forget it, I'll do it later. This is how people operate. So if you're in business, how are you removing the one more step? How are you making it so simple? Because that journey, that experience, that ease of using something, of utilizing a system is going to be a huge differentiating factor in the growth or lack of growth in your business. So we created a super simple system for her to target referrals. Now, when we broke this down and looked at her KPIs, so if you're not familiar with KPIs, key performing indicators, based on her KPIs of the past, now every single one of you will have different data. Every single one of you. Now the KPIs will show you your holes and your opportunities for growth. So they're super important. You could have a KPI in terms of how many posts you're doing on social media. You could do how many book calls you're gonna have a month, how many conversations you're gonna have a month, how many new clients, how much cash collected. Like anything can be made into a KPI, literally anything, okay? But key performance indicators, think of them as like your vital signs. When you go to the doctor and the doctor like does your blood pressure or your weight or whatever it is, those are your vital signs. Your KPIs are gonna be different for every business, but they are literally going to be the vital signs for the health of your business. So you can look at your KPIs and know how healthy your business is in any given month. Now, I make KPIs monthly with my clients. I recommend that you do them monthly and you check them weekly. So the way I do it with clients is we set monthly KPIs and then weekly we check them to see where we're doing instead of just waiting to the end of the month and being like, oh shit, right? So based on her KPIs, we know her data. We know based on 20 conversations, it will likely yield 4 calls, and from 4 calls, 3 will show up, and from 3 showing up, she will likely have 1.5, it's about 50%, 1.5 new clients. So when you do that, now you get into predictable revenue. And this is how you create predictable revenue from KPIs. You cannot have predictable revenue if you do not have KPIs. You cannot have KPIs if you do not have strategy and data. All right? So again, 2 things that I did, if you missed the beginning of this, for my client, was that we looked at 1, the holes, 2, the opportunities. And this is literally all I do as a business strategist. What are the holes? What are the opportunities? What are the holes? What are the opportunities? Her holes were her opt-ins and not having a process. So we created Zapier's automations because she's human. She's going to live her life. She's not going to be there every single day, every single hour, looking at who's opting in when, right? So this is why you want to create systems and processes. So it's not relying on you just constantly being available. So we created a system and a process to follow up with those 16 people. And then we created an opportunity, an expansion, and we created a process around it for client referrals, which has been yielding her a lot of revenue. So from that, she now has clear action steps to generate what is projected to be about $68,000, which is massive. And that will likely convert over the next month or 2, right? It's not going to be immediate, but this is when we have strategy. We don't wake up every day going like, what am I doing? Where are people coming from? And when we have systems in place, we're allowed to be human. And I'm going to end on that. When we have systems in place, we can be human, because if we don't have a system, everything is reliant on us being available, us being on, us feeling good, and that will not set your business up to run. So I hope this serves and supports you. Feel free to DM me with any questions on how to identify gaps and opportunities, and I would be happy to talk more with you about it. All right, happy Friday.